This talk contains discussion of body shaming and images that may be triggering. If you need to prepare yourself, please prepare yourself now. All right, so I started this off with one big question. How do photoshopped advertisements affect the way that we feel about our bodies? Except I'm a questioning kind of person, and that wound up spreading into more questions and more questions. I ended up with an even bigger question than this, which turned out to be, how does the pervasive use of photo editing in media affect the way that we feel about ourselves? And I read a book, I read some articles, I did some research, I talked to some cool people. I ended up with the answer that photo editing in media convinces us that beauty is way more important in our lives than it actually is. And that ends up negatively impacting our mental health. So let's jump right into some of these images. These images right here are collected from a quick Google search of magazine model. All of these images came from print magazines. Let's take them in for a second. These ones came from a search of Instagram model, similarly quick Google search. And these ones came from an image search of Fitspo, which is short for Fitspiration, a genre of imagery intended to inspire people to work out and get fit. So if you feel kind of bad looking at these, you're definitely not alone. But why? I mean, we know that many, if not all, of these images were digitally altered, and we know that humans, kind of like birds, come in all different shapes, colors, and sizes. So we shouldn't feel bad, right? Unfortunately, our brains are absolutely hardwired to compare ourselves to others. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a social species thing. Comparing ourselves to others allows us to understand where we are in the group, allows us to behave appropriately and make sure that we're liked and that we fit in socially. That's a great advantage as a species. It's just super, super counterproductive given the actual images that we see. So in a statement shocking no one, most women don't look like that. That's not to say that the women in the images I showed you somehow aren't real. They are. It's just that they begin as statistical outliers. Very, very few people in the world have the model body type. And it's the use of photo editing software that makes the women in these images, that makes the images unrealistic, not the women themselves. With the use of photo editing, the women in these photos are taken from statistical outliers to literally non-existent. Here's a quick video to show you exactly what I mean. Eventually it will redirect. All right, so part of what this video tells us is that photo editing is pervasive, and even if it's drastic edits like the ones shown here, it's not always obvious to our brains if we're not looking for it. Our brains don't see Photoshop, they don't see images of people, they see people. We've still got basically the same brains we had 2,000 years ago. So images of beautiful people like this are everywhere. They're in our magazines, they're on our TVs, in our advertisements, on our social media. And let's talk for a second about the kind of beauty that surrounds us in these images. I can pretty confidently tell you that the women in the images I showed you have no acne, they have no cellulite, they have no stretch marks, they have no freckles, moles, wrinkles, scars, or birthmarks. Almost all of them are white. All are young, almost all are stick thin, and every single one is able-bodied. And take a second now to look at the girls and women sitting around you. Think about the women that you know and admire. Do most of them look like that? I mean, probably not. But again, going back to us having about the same brains we had 2,000 years ago, our brains aren't set up to process that. We just see people, and the frequency with which we see these images convinces our brains that that kind of beauty is way, way more common than it actually is. And even if we do realize that we'll most likely never look that good, it's hard to shake the feeling that we'd be happier if we did. I mean, think about what surrounds beautiful people in these images. Luxury products, beautiful clothes, the adoration of everyone around us, exotic locations. That association convinces our brain that beauty and happiness are deeply, deeply linked. All in all, we end up feeling like beauty is way, way more important than it is. So what does this actually mean for us? What effect does this have on our lives, on our days? Well, for one thing, we're not giving life our full attention a lot of the time. When we feel like appearance is super, super important, we feel watched. We feel scrutinized, we feel judged, and we start to monitor ourselves. Guys, is my hair okay? Is my skirt riding up? Is my shirt okay? Can you see my bra strap? Is my makeup smudged? Am I good? We've only got so much attention that we can pay to things. If I'm in class and I'm spending 20% of my attention on focusing that I'm sitting up straight, that my clothes are okay, that my hair is okay, that's 20% of my attention that's not going to my classes. And that builds up, especially for the more self-conscious among us. What are we missing when we focus on our bodies instead of our lives? How could we be using that energy? How could we be using that attention to better ourselves? We start feeling like our bodies are against us too. I mean, if beauty means happiness and I'm not beautiful, then my body is the thing that's keeping me from being happy. So we try and fight our bodies on that one. We wear uncomfortable, even painful clothes because we think they'll make us look better. I'm talking heels, Spanx, skinny jeans. We put all sorts of restrictions on our diet so our bodies will be shaped differently, and way more than we'd probably like to admit, it's not about health. It's really about weight or about shape or about self-consciousness. I'm thinking juice cleanses, crash diets, extreme calorie restriction. And probably most insidiously, we buy ridiculous amounts of products to change the way that we look. Products to change the texture of our hair, the color of our skin, our body hair, our skin tone, anything. There's an entire industry profiting off our dissatisfaction with our bodies. Mint.com, a personal finance website, estimates that the average woman spends $15,000 in her life on beauty products. $15,000. And that's not even counting products like clothes to change the way her body looks. Let's stop for a second and take that in. And yes, I know that it's fun or comforting for some women and that it can be fun to enjoy the art of things like makeup, but my question is this: how many of us feel like we have to shave? Like we have to put on makeup, like we have to straighten our hair, or we're not comfortable going out in public? When did changing the way that we look stop being an option and start being an obligation? It disconnects us from our bodies too. We run into problems when we start treating our bodies as objects instead of instruments. If our bodies are objects, their job is to be beautiful, it's to look good, it's to be something for other people. But if our bodies are instruments, their job is to house and carry the wonderful and complex people inside them. Let's look for a second at these workouts right here. These are all collected from about a 5-minute Pinterest search of workouts. And look how much they focus on destruction and making us small. Master your body, annihilate cellulite, reduce, get rid of, destroy. That's not a focus on health. That's a focus on pounding someone's body into shape, making it small. I mean, on some level you might think that's forgivable, right? A workout is a workout. It's encouraging people to get healthy, but psychologists at Northwestern have shown that shame is actually not a great workout motivator at all. It makes us associate exercise, which is good for us, with shame and negativity, which are bad for us. A much better motivator is loving your body and wanting it to be healthy and functional. If the titles of these workouts were based around loving your body and being healthy, they'd say things like, awesome ab workout for killer ab strength, 10 exercises to run faster, or yoga routine for stress relief. Loving your body is a much more effective motivator for wanting it healthy than hating it is. Plus, it's fully possible to be strong and healthy without having six-pack abs. Take a look for a second at these female Olympians. Now, to be fair, I couldn't get these to go into the presentation properly, so the heights aren't to scale, but the proportions are. Look at how different all of these awesome ladies look. They've got all sorts of different bodies, and every single one is a world-class athlete, what we'd consider the pinnacle of health. All right, so I'm gonna stop now. I'm gonna say I've been talking for 17 and a half minutes about this big problem that we have as a society with women hating our bodies. Anyone else think this is getting depressing? Yeah. That's why I want to shift the conversation now to what we can do to try and make this better. I'm going to divide this into two sections, what we can do to help ourselves and what we can do to help each other. And I know before we start that a lot of these are a little bit simplistic or may not work for everybody, but just bear with me for a minute. So when you're helping yourself, first start by remembering that, like we saw in the video, the images that we see of stunningly beautiful people usually don't reflect reality. The woman in the video we saw had a whole hair, makeup, lighting team, and photo editing on her side to make her look like that. And beyond that, try to make appearances less important in your life. Try not to look at ads like the ones I showed you if you don't have to. If they just make you feel bad, there's no point. Don't participate in appearance-focused media. I'm talking Who Wore It Better or makeover shows. They're kind of fun and frivolous at first, but implicitly they start to convince us that we're just being watched and that our appearance is being scrutinized all the time. And beyond that, seek out more positive messages about your body. Try not to be around people who constantly put you down for the way you look. And when we're helping each other, we can start, and this has been really hard for me, by giving different compliments. Instead of saying, oh my God, your hair looks awesome today, we can say something like, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. You're so funny, you're so charismatic. You always brighten my day. There are so many other things that make people awesome than the way that they look. And right here, this is a big one, no negative body talk. And that's that thing that we've all done where we go, oh my God, I hate my thighs. And then somebody else comes in and goes, oh my God, you hate your thighs, I hate my thighs. And somebody else goes, oh my God, you hate your thighs, I hate my arms, have you seen my arms? And then we just go around and around in a circle, and nobody comes out of those conversations feeling positive. We gotta stop. So that's a really big one. Just try and stop that one before it starts. Talk about things other than appearance instead, and social media counts for this one too. Talk about politics, the weather, the news, anything. There are so many things going on that aren't what people are wearing or what they wore, what they look like, what their weight is. When you do want to encourage exercise and healthy eating for somebody you love, do it for the sake of health and fun, not for the sake of shape or weight. Like we saw with the Olympians, thinness and health aren't necessarily equivalent, and I'm sure that all us thin people have done some pretty unhealthy things. Who here has not worn sunscreen when they probably should? Yeah. Health. There's more to it than weight. And when I'm talking about other people's bodies, I try to go by the mantra, if they can't fix it in 2 minutes, don't bring it up. It's one thing to tell someone that their barrette is about to fall out or that there's spinach in their teeth, and totally another thing to tell someone that they look really fat today or that their haircut is terrible. And last thing, glad for the laughs, thanks guys. And last thing, on a larger scale, we know that a ton of these images that we see, especially in advertising, are altered, so let's work against it. Let's push for more realistic advertising. So at this point you might be thinking, why? Why should we bother with any of this? This is hard. Feeling like our bodies are bad is kind of a routine, right? We should care because there are real benefits to changing the way that we think about our appearance. Healthier body image is linked to higher confidence. It's linked to feeling happier in your daily life. It's linked to having way more mental energy because not thinking, am I standing up straight all the time, frees up a lot more space to think about other things. It's also awesomely linked to healthier behaviors. When we love our bodies, we want to treat them well, and we want them to be healthy and happy. Healthier body image gives us freedom. All right, so I'm not going to end this by saying that everyone is beautiful. I don't think that's the point. Everyone isn't beautiful. My point is that beauty shouldn't be important in determining our value. Appearance shouldn't be as important in our lives as it is. Let's break away from this obsession with bodies and beauty that we have as a culture. It's holding us back. Let's stop fighting our bodies and start using that energy to live our lives. Everyone isn't beautiful, and that's okay. We don't need to be. Every single person is valuable, though. Let's start there instead. Thank you.